Sumita Karir, my colleague, caught up with CII National Committee on Smart Cities and Urban Development Chairperson, who is also the MD and CEO of Siemens, to understand the take on the CAPEX announcement. Let's go across and listen in to what they had to say.
A lot of what the CII had recommended has actually been addressed in the budget. I see it as being a consistent budget, a budget that has following on the path of development that the government had laid out and has been following in the last couple of years. In a way, it's also a growth budget. In particular, I see the allocation for capital goods in infrastructure as being a welcome step, very clearly a 10% growth over there.
Okay, and how would you rate the budget then on 10?
So it's difficult to rate a budget like this because this particular budget has got a little bit for everyone in it, while keeping the focus on what the major elements are. So it's very difficult to put a rating on it.
Right, Mr. Mathur, and what's also been one of the key takeaways as far as this budget presentation is concerned, that the fiscal discipline has been maintained with respect to the fiscal deficit percentage. That's, of course, evolving within what the government has been sort of, planning overall for the economy. Does that give you confidence, the private sector, the confidence to invest more, given the fact that we've not seen enough of private sector investments while government's CAPEX has seen a boost?
I think private sector investment has started coming.
That's limited only to a very few sectors.
Yes, but it is increasing. And I'll put two elements over there why I see that as happening. One is, of course, the reduction in the income tax rates in the middle of last year. The second is, of course, the GST elements. Both of these provided the impetus to grow. We've already begun to see in the first 3 months or the last 3 months of last calendar year that there has been private sector spending happening. I believe that will continue, and I hope that that will continue. It still takes, there's always a lag effect after these announcements for private sector investments really to take off. But one of the critical impetuses for private sector taking off is the spend on infrastructure. And I think unless the infrastructure is strong, land, labor, taxation, roads, highways, logistics, all of that is critical. And I think the government has continued down that path. I'd like to see, for example, a little bit more being done on digitalization of land records. Labor, the government addressed largely a couple of weeks ago with the labor codes coming in. Taxation, the advanced pricing mechanism, that is something that would have been nice to see. But the increase in capital outlay from 11.2 lakh crores to 12.2 lakh crores, that's very welcome because that brings down logistic costs. There will be an increase in outlay for the railways. There will be an increase in outlay for airports and roads and highways as well. And I think that is critical to bring down the logistic costs, which make the Indian private sector much more competitive. Of course, in between, you've had all the FTAs that have also been signed. So overall, the environment and the ecosystem is beginning to align to create a more conducive atmosphere in a very volatile world for private sector to start investing.
Okay, but now you're suggesting that it should come in now soon, given the kind of push that you think that the government has given to infrastructure by way of CAPEX push as well. Sir, you also mentioned about geopolitical headwinds. You mentioned about volatility. And one thing that CII has been asking as far as, these global disruptions are concerned, that we need to strengthen our domestic capacity, strengthen our domestic industry, and of course, become self-reliant. So in that aspect, what do you really make of the duty cuts that the finance minister has proposed on several sectors, including electronics, is also, the transport sector as well, amongst others?
That's very welcome. That goes in exactly in this direction. Also, the focus on small and medium enterprises.
Yes.
That unless the small and medium enterprises are able to step up at this point in time, the value chains will not really become resilient and robust over there, which is absolutely critical for manufacturing. So when you go for import substitution, one of the first areas that need to be addressed is, of course, the value chains that you have here in the country. And I think the government has put that focus in, particularly looking at areas, for example, like promoting the rare earth material elements, right? Super critical. Semiconductors, absolutely critical to maintain the robustness and resilience of the Indian supply chains. So there are measures like that in the budget which are contributing to ensure that there is resilience, reliability, and sustainability of Indian supply chains.
But what were jobs, sir? Because this was one of the key concerns that has been expressed over the past couple of years, and more so now with global disruptions and global tech disruptions, more importantly, with AI coming into the picture. There's been a fear that this is going to replace some of the jobs, and we are seeing that happen, at least in some sectors, not though at a very large scale. But do you think enough push to jobs has been given? We have seen a skilling push that this came last year as well. There was the PM internship scheme. But what about this year? Do you think this has been a focus area? Surely exports and, of course, maintaining resilience has been, but jobs, from what you see in the budget, has that been a focus area?
So jobs come with economic expansion. Technology historically has never taken away jobs, they've only added jobs. The only thing that has changed is the nature of the jobs have changed. And this requires skilling, cross-skilling, upskilling as well. And I think there is a focus in this budget as well, very clearly, on the skilling angle. But more importantly, it is important to create an economic expansion to create the environment so that more jobs can actually be created. And I think that is beginning to happen. The more private sector starts expanding, the more they will need to employ people. May not be at the same rate and with the same skills that they used to do 5 years ago. Those skill sets will change. And a lot of those who are on the employment line will have to reskill themselves and upskill themselves. But that's part of evolution when you get new technologies coming in.
And that really is also the accountability of the private sector as well to sort of help in skilling and reskilling of their workforce. But just one final question, sir, before we wrap this up. And this essentially is on the robustness of the exports ecosystem. Now, we did touch upon the exports robustness in the past, but with the provision of creation of plug-and-play facilities or SCZs with respect to specific sectors, what do you think the messaging from the government is?
I think it's very consistent again, and that's why I say the budget is being consistent. The government does want to promote exports. The number of FTAs that have been signed by the government is enormous. This recent FTA with the European Union is a landmark FTA. Creation of economic units, regions, is following in that direction as well. Creating industrial clusters, focusing on what the country really needs in those industrial clusters is all part of this overall strategy to make it easier for Indian suppliers to start being part and integrated into global supply chains.